What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. Today we'll be taking a look at information that was data mined by Skin Spotlights that shed some light on stuff we can expect for Season 2 of 2026. This is stuff that Riot leaked themselves, but leaks are still leaks. So if you don't want to get spoiled, please do not watch this video. First, we got confirmation that the upcoming champion is indeed named Loki, or Locke. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. We still don't know for sure if this will be the character we saw in the Garen comic, but for now I think it's safe to assume it's them. The game mode arena is getting a major update, and thanks to Skin Spotlights we have the whole list of champions that will be present as guests of honor. For those that don't know, guests of honor are champions that offer special rules or modifiers to spice up the gameplay. Following the leak from a couple days ago, we know that Season 2 will be tied to the demons of Runeterra, and with this list of guests we can assume that at least this arena update will be themed after both demons but also Demacia, as we can see a lot of Demacian champions. In my last video I mentioned the possibility of Season 2 still taking place in Demacia, and while we still don't have solid confirmation of that yet, this arena update does seem to suggest that, but we'll need to wait and see. I've seen a lot of people assume that all of these champions are getting new lore, but as I'll mention later, this is very unlikely. For this video I want to go over this list of champions and explain how they are tied to Demacia and or to demons, what champions stand out the most, and what champions feel absent. Let's start with the Demacian champions. I'm sure you know the story of Demacia, a kingdom created as a safe haven from the catastrophes of the Rune Wars. In recent years, they've become more and more wary of magic and outsiders. Present from the start was Poppy. Her best friend Orlon founded the kingdom, and she inherited his hammer when he passed away. Morgana and Kayle are twin sisters. They were born to Mihira, who had climbed Mount Targan and become the host of the Aspect of Justice. Their father would take them to Demacia where they grew up and eventually inherit some of their mother's powers, becoming the winged protectors of Demacia. In modern times they are just legends. I'm expecting Morgana to have her veiled lady skin and Kayle to have her upcoming winged protector skin, which as I said in my previous video might be based on her design from the Still Here cinematic. Jarvan IV is the prince of Demacia and the heir to the throne. He's been depicted with a completely different design this season outside of Demacia Rising, but I really don't expect this to become a skin. I could be wrong though. Garen and Lux are members of the Crownguard family. Garen is a soldier and Lux is secretly a mage, and she's so powerful that her magic alone can wake up Galio. If the story for Demacia remains canon, then an ancestor of them fought and defeated Nocturne in Foss Barrow. Decades later, both Garen and Lux also faced the demon, with Lux being able to defeat it. This likely hasn't happened yet in the new timeline. Sylas is a mage with the ability to absorb magic and then use it himself. He was imprisoned by the Mage Seekers when he was a child, and in the new timeline he has not escaped yet. I don't believe we'll see his escape in Season 2. I think a lot of champions here were just chosen because the devs wanted to add some fun champions to the mode that fit the teams. A long time ago, one writer did confirm that Sylas shackles were used in the past to capture demons, though this was never mentioned in the lore, so take it with a grain of salt. At some point he'll fight Nocturne, as we see in the Mage Seeker game, assuming this will remain canon. Vayne is an orphan whose parents were killed by the demon Evelyn. Following this, she made her life mission to find and kill demons and users of dark magic in hopes of getting her revenge on the demon that killed her parents. The upcoming champion Locke seems to have similar glasses to her, so there might be a connection between them. Speaking of which, we don't know much about the upcoming champion besides the fact that they were investigating the wild woods of Demacia, forests where magic has been rising. And the last Demacian champion is Taric. Yes, Taric was a Demacian soldier, but after he caused the death of many soldiers, he was banished from the country, leading to him climbing Mount Targan and becoming the host of the Protector. In the new timeline this probably hasn't happened yet though. Taric is a bit of an odd choice, but maybe he's getting a skin based on his past in Demacia. Here I wanna say that it's weird for Sona to be absent, since in the season cinematic we see her saving people from leaving shadows, which are likely tied to Nocturne. Like I said in my previous video, this was the only part of the cinematic that wasn't explored further, and for now I'm expecting this story to continue in Season 2. Let's move on to the demon champions. Demons are evil spirits that feed on thoughts, feelings, emotions. Each feeds on something different. The more specific the feeling, the weaker they are. The more generic the feeling, the stronger. So for example, a demon that feeds specifically on petty jealousy will be much weaker than one that feeds on carnage. We have Tahm Kench, a demon that feeds on addiction. He likes to make deals with mortals, and as you can expect, these never end up being worth it in the end. Contrary to what most people think, Evelynn doesn't feed on lust, she feeds on agony. She uses her body to seduce her victims before hurting them. Nocturne is a demon of nightmares. He is able to manifest in people's dreams and even summon shadowy creatures in the form of their worst fears. And finally we have Fiddlesticks. Fiddle is one of the 10 primordial demons of Runeterra, being the one that feeds on fear. Unlike your average demons, the 10 primordial ones are much more ancient and powerful. They are almost like forces of nature. Now Shaco is also on this list, but well, it's Shaco. He doesn't really have lore. His title is the Demon Jester, but the writer Jared Rosen, who contributed a lot to the world building of Runeterra, especially the lore surrounding demons, confirmed that Shaco isn't a demon. But not only was Shaco's lore never updated to reflect this, but Jared also doesn't work at Riot anymore. It would be nice to see him finally getting some lore, but I would keep my hopes low for now. Now, champions who aren't demons, but use demonic powers. And his mother was experimented on by the Black Rose, and they were able to tie an ancient demon of fire to her soul. This connection would later be passed on to Annie, with the demon now manifesting as a giant teddy bear. In the new timeline, Annie might not have been born yet? Question mark? Either that or she's like 1 or 2 years old. I'm mentioning all of these events that haven't happened yet to make a point that champions being part of Arena doesn't necessarily mean they will be part of the narrative of Season 2. Again, they could just be here for the sake of gameplay and because they fit the team. Neela wields the powers of the primordial demon of joy, Ashless, though this power came at the cost of her not being able to feel anything but joy all the time. She seeks to become a legend by slaying ancient beasts and demons. Yone is Yasuo's brother. When Yasuo was accused of killing their master, Yone sought to bring his brother to justice, only to die by his hands. But death wasn't the end, as a demon who preyed on his emotions followed him to the afterlife. But there, Yone managed to defeat it. Kinda. When he woke up, he was back in the land of the living. But the demon had become a mask on his face, and Yone now wields its power. He hunts other demons, sealing them in masks. Missing here is Swain, who wields the power of Rom, an ancient demon of secrets. He is likely not part of the new Arena update because he was already introduced as a guest of honor last year. And with this we've talked about every single champion related to Demacia or to demons, but there are still a couple missing. Kindred, the embodiment of death in Runeterra, Orlon, the Freljord demigod of fire and forging, and Hwei, an Ionian mage with the power to magically manifest emotions through paint. Now, some of you might remember that when Hwei was revealed, there were some theories about a possible connection between him and the primordial demon, one that was teased in the Convergence game. However, shortly after his reveal, his writer did confirm that he had no connections to demons, and since then the demon mentioned in Convergence was also never mentioned again. And to be honest, I'm not expecting any of this to change in the next season. Anyways, these champions, as well as Taric, might seem like random choices, but there's one thing that we should keep in mind. Not all the Demacian skins we got this season were canon. In fact, most of them were simply what-ifs. What if Sho'gath was a Petricite statue, for example? So it's very possible that some of these champions will be getting skins in Season 2 related to demons or Demacia, explaining their inclusion in the Arena update. In fact, any of these champions could be getting new skins related to the teams of Season 2. For example, I've already mentioned Taric and Kayle. And this concludes this video. Let me know down below what are your expectations for Season 2 and which of these champions would you like to see getting new lore or new skins. I think a Petricite Shaco skin could be really cool, for example. And make sure you watch my previous videos, as I've been covering all the new stories we got and coming up with theories about where League's lore might be headed in Season 2. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, it's free and you can always change your mind later. I'm Twisted and I'll see you guys in the next video.